Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Carlos Benaim, and I'm a member of the ASF board. Over the last 70 years, the Sephardic world has suffered more dislocations than at any time since the expulsion from Spain. Over 1 million of our people have been displaced, entire historic Jewish communities have disappeared, and many of us have witnessed this history. As a product of generations of immigrants, I've always been fascinated by the history of our wandering people. Born and raised in Tangiers, Morocco, I lived in France and Holland before settling in the United States. Decades ago, one of my then toddler sons reported to his class that his father was Brazilian. Now, granted, I used to go to Brazil for business, but I was struck by how little of my past I had communicated to my children, and by how important it was to me to share my culture with them. I continued to collect family stories, which eventually evolved into filmed interviews of the clan elders. You all know Andre Aciman, whose moving novel Out of Egypt elevates storytelling to compelling literature. But who is going to tell your story, the story of your family, the story of the parents and grandparents you cherish? At a recent conference in Barcelona, Spain, Hélène Trigano presented her work filming testimonies of Sephardim living in France a la Spielberg Shoah interviews. And I was struck that there were no such initiatives for our community in the United States. That is why we at ASF conceived a new project to film and videotape and preserve the testimonies of Sephardic Jews in the United States. The Impassioned Planning Committee consists of Raquel Benatar, Shelomo Alfasa, Stan Ehrman, and myself. We generated a questionnaire, turning to Professor Margalit Bejarano of Hebrew University in Jerusalem and to Professor Henry Green of Miami University for professional input. Our aim is to eventually conduct interviews throughout the United States. ASF will provide the methodology to partner with community organizations and synagogues across the country. Our board has generously contributed personally to fund a pilot study in the New York area of more than 10 interviews, which is completed already. And moving right along, we then plan to have students at the Sephardic High School interview their parents and grandparents with questionnaires and cameras provided by ASF. And as the data comes in, we hope and we expect the foundations to eagerly participate. Beyond our shores, ASF has joined in an international effort. We are partnering and sharing data with both Hebrew University in Jerusalem and the University of Miami in Florida. Each of our institutions, as well as the Center for Jewish History, will receive copies of all interviews, as well as those already conducted in Israel, France, the United Kingdom, Canada, and Brazil. These protected archives will be made available to historians. And we turn now to a pilot video from interviews conducted with 4 board members, Mrs. Nina Wiener, Mr. Norman Belmonte, Mr. Norman Benzaken, and myself. These clips are excerpts from 2-hour professional interviews tracing family history, life in the Old Country, the Exodus, if applicable, and life in the United States. Each person interviewed will receive a DVD of the full interview as a permanent memento. I urge you to join us and take this opportunity to have ASF interview someone in your family. What could possibly be a better birthday, bar mitzvah, or Hanukkah present for someone you love than to have the story of your family recorded as an integral part of the legacy of the Jewish people? And now let's watch the trailer.
My mother was born in 1894. My grandfather, Jacob Papo, arrived in Israel as a baby with his parents from Sarajevo, if I understand well. And my mother was very proud of the lineage in the Papo family, and she would mention to me that we were descendants, that at least her father was a descendant from the Rabbi Eliezer Papo, who wrote Pele Yoetz.
They used to have coffee at 3 o'clock every afternoon, Turkish coffee. And they would talk about events from Europe. And the chronological referral time was before the fire or after the fire. Antes del fuego or después del fuego. And that was the point that they could refer to chronologically to determine when something happened. Of course, they rarely agreed on when that was occurred.
Where apparently every family used to bake two breads. One was the regular bread for Friday night and Saturday, and the other one was a pan de tzedakah, which was even bigger. It was supposed to be double the size. And that bread was collected in a big bag by somebody who used to collect all those breads and give the pan de tzedakah to the poor.
My father died in 1962, and he was already thinking of leaving. A lot of his family was in Madrid. So for us, I still remember my father one morning coming with a newspaper, and it says, La Charte de Tanger est abolie. The charter, the constitution of Tangiers is abolished, meaning Tangiers is no longer an independent entity governed by a body of different governments, but it's fully integrated in Morocco. And my father said, this is the end.
We left an apartment. We left, as I said, we were not rich, but we left silver things. We left whatever we had. Again, I can't remember. We left. We could leave only with a suitcase each, and I think $3,000.
And the Moroccan Aliyah was done in secret. People were basically living in secret. There were containers that were sent to the homes at night. It was all prearranged. The whole container was filled with all the contents of the home and put in the harbor, and that was it.
My brother-in-law's father had a coffee shop on Neptune Avenue in Brooklyn. And it was a big congregating point for Sephardim. He had one on the Lower East Side, and it was basically a place where Sephardic Jews came, Turks particularly, to find a job.